Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, the channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, I have to admit I wasn't expecting to see this. I know there's a lot of talk across the internet these days, well, the political internet that is, that President Joe Biden isn't actually gonna run, that at the last second they're gonna do a little switcheroo, replacing Joe with Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama at the last second. I don't know, I haven't exactly found this talking point very convincing, but you know, if there's enough pressure from their side, it might actually happen. And considering where Joe Biden is in the polls and of course presidential head-to-head polling data, well, the Democrats might not have a choice. It's like I've been saying, folks, it's like we've been covering. The button's being pushed. What button that is? The panic button. All out panic in DC, all out panic at the White House as the scramble to either revive Joe Biden's political image or lobby to replace Joe Biden has begun. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on as Democrat confidence continues to plummet straight into the ground. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let me ask you first, who is Joe Biden's most ardent defender? Who is the person in the media who sings Joe Biden's praise like no other? Well, of course, it's none other than Nancy Pelosi.
This president did such a remarkable job. He is a person of such knowledge, such vision for the country, such knowledge of the issues, such strategic thinking, and such a legislator. And on top of it all, a person who connects with the American people. He just has to get out there.
Joe Biden's the greatest thing ever, according to Nancy Pelosi. And not even just the greatest president, literally the greatest human being to ever grace this green earth. That's Joe Biden, according to Nancy Pelosi, when she's in full political swing mode. Well, maybe that sentiment or maybe the overall confidence is starting to diminish just slightly. The Daily Mail reports, Nancy Pelosi concedes Biden may drop out of 2024 race, then laughs and refuses to say if Kamala Harris is the best running mate. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi conceded that Joe Biden may drop out of the 2024 race, then smirked, laughed, and dodged the question when asked if she thinks that Kamala Harris should run to be re-elected as vice president. Worryingly for the president, Pelosi gave an evasive answer when pressed about whether his career will continue until 2024 and beyond. Asked if she thought there's a chance that Biden does not continue running, Pelosi gave a less than definitive answer, "I hope not." Well, of course, it'd be one thing if it was just Nancy Pelosi, but it isn't. The Washington Post a couple days ago ran a front-page headline opinion piece, seriously sounding the alarm in the media echo chamber. The title of the article pretty much tells the whole story. Quote, President Biden should not run again in 2024.
You may. Go ahead.
The piece is entitled, President Biden Should Not Run Again in 2024. And in it you write, quote, Biden wrote his political testament in his inaugural address. When our days are through, our children and our children's children will say of us, they gave their best, they did their duty, they healed a broken land. Mr. President, maybe this is that moment when duty has been served. Biden would carry two big liabilities into a 2024 campaign. He would be 82 when he began a second term. And according to a recent Associated Press and ORC poll, 77% of the public think he is too old to be effective for 4 more years. And the fact that he has beaten Trump, I don't know why you would question his ability to beat him again. There are other presidents who are later in years, including the Republican presumptive nominee. Is this really about Kamala Harris?
And it seemed to me through this summer, I haven't gone anywhere in the country, I haven't talked to any group of people where this issue of whether President Biden should run again hasn't been a centerpiece of conversation. It doesn't get into the newspapers. It doesn't get much on TV except Fox News, which is obsessed with it. And I thought that it was time to raise that question. Again, the heart of it is whether Joe Biden is the best person to carry this legacy forward. He may decide that he's the only person who can defeat Donald Trump. I mean, he sees that as his mission. It's why he ran in the first place back in 2019. He may decide he's the guy who can do it and nobody else can, and that's his decision. But I felt it was time to have a more public discussion about this.
So even the Washington Post's own David Ignatius, a guy who I just showed you in the clip, is singing Joe Biden's praise like you could not imagine. Even that guy is using his media megaphone to yell to the masses, "Don't do it. Joe, please, please, for the love of everything that is holy, do not run for president in 2024. Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Oh, he's great. Oh, the greatest thing ever. His foreign policy. Did you see what he did in Afghanistan? Oh, 10 out of 10. He stopped Donald Trump and he's weaponizing the DOJ to go after Donald Trump. What a track record. So good, so good, so good. No, but please don't run." How absolutely stupid is that? And to add insult to injury, the New York Times just released their piece, 2024's Field of Nightmares. It goes on and on with the whole baseball analogy, yada, yada, yada. These pompous New York Times writers are just the worst. I mean, just get to the damn point. Many, many useless paragraphs later. But in running Biden for re-election, Democrats are making a faithful bet that this successful management can simply continue through two sets of risks. The high stakes of the next election, in which a health crisis or just more slippage might be the thing that puts Trump back in the White House. And the different but also substantial stakes of another 4-year term. The ball will always find you is not, of course, an invariable truth. It's entirely possible that Biden can limp to another victory, that his second term will yield no worse consequences than, say, Ronald Reagan's did, that having managed things thus far, his aides, spouse, and cabinet can see the next 5 years through. I mean, for Pete's sakes, this guy's basically admitting that Joe Biden isn't even the president. Oh, let's just hopefully get Biden past the finish line so his aides and cabinet members can do the job for him. How utterly ridiculous. Anyways, let's continue. But the Trump era has been one of those periods when providence or fate revenges itself more swiftly than usual on hubris. When the long-standing freedom that American parties and leaders have enjoyed by virtue of our power and preeminence to skate around our weak spots and mistakes has been substantially curtailed, what is this guy even talking about? Just get to the damn point. Yada yada yada, blah blah blah, elitist, overly educated, nonsense writing later. So whether it's certain or not, I can't help expecting a similarly dramatic punishment for trying to keep Biden in the White House, notwithstanding his decline. Yeah, a lot of words, a lot of metaphors and fancy writing to portray a very, very simple concept, and that is the concept of absolute sheer panic. They're not sure, they're starting to doubt whether Joe Biden can get the job done a second time in a row, and it seems like the all-out effort to force Joe Biden out of his position has begun. CNN seems to be turning on Joe at least a little bit, or maybe just telling the truth for the one time a month that they do so.
And he has done, I don't know if it's similar things, but he's sort of told some stories that don't line up quite like this before.
Yeah, this president has a pattern at this point of either inventing or embellishing stories about his own past, his biography. He did it 3 times in one speech last month alone. He claimed he had witnessed a bridge collapse in Pittsburgh when he actually showed up about 6 hours later. He claimed that his grandfather had died just days before he was born himself at the same hospital. In fact, his grandpa died more than a year before in a different state, not the same hospital. And he also repeated a favorite false story that I and others have debunked over and over again about a supposed conversation with an Amtrak train conductor he was friends with, who was actually deceased at the time the conversation would have had to take place. And that's not all. There are some more serious ones in my view. Previously in his presidency, he claimed at one point he'd been arrested during a civil rights protest when, in other versions of the story, he just said an officer had taken him home from a protest. He said he had visited the Pittsburgh synagogue where worshippers were killed in a 2018 mass shooting. In fact, he had actually spoken to the rabbi, but never went. And he's made a whole bunch of others too. He said at one point, Republicans like to bring this up, he said that he used to drive a tractor trailer, he used to drive an 18-wheeler. Never happened. The White House later clarified he used to drive a school bus at one point as a job briefly. School bus, of course, not an 18-wheeler. So whatever his intentions, whether it's foggy memory about stuff that's going on decades ago or deliberate embellishment, this is an unfortunate pattern that keeps coming up again and again with Joe Biden.
So the media might be turning on him slowly here as the effort to replace him ramps up, and it's no surprise why they're panicking. Like I told you guys post-indictment, Donald Trump is very likely to start winning in the polls. On the RCP aggregate average, Trump is now ahead by half a point, with his biggest lead in the New York Post poll at +3. On issues like the economy, clearly Joe Biden's Bidenomics shtick hasn't worked so well. Suffolk University asked a simple question: do you feel the economy is either improving or getting worse? 70% responded getting worse. With a follow-up question, who do you trust more to improve the economy, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? 47% say Trump, 36% say Biden. Independents, 46% Trump, 26% Biden. And just to build on top of that, Biden now sinks 19 points in Iowa as women and young voters begin to desert him. Folks, one word. It's what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. Panic. P-A-N-I-C. In fact, it's probably more than one word. Absolute, desperate, all-out panic when they were so confident just a couple weeks ago. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.